Let me ask you a question. Are you close to anybody who struggles with addiction? You know, for years, I've been receiving messages from family members of those who struggle with addiction of all kinds. Alcohol, drugs, food, sex, whatever. And while the questions have generally been the same, I've never had a solid, systematic way to help those families. So what we were always left with was an email here, an email there, maybe a phone call. But that is all about to change. Because Ignited is launching its first ever program specifically for family members of those who are struggling. We're bringing together some incredible expertise, not just my own decades of addiction and mental health knowledge, but also that of Jeff Jones, an incredible interventionist and family expert, and Tina Conkin, a powerhouse relationship coach who's been helping families stay together and make it through crises for almost 30 years. Now on May 26th, we're going to begin the first and only time that this program is going to take place live, and the only time it's going to be available for a huge discount. Yes, you literally get the three of us and some amazing guest experts live for a whole month to help you and your loved one. We're going to be answering questions like, how do you talk with less fighting? Can you actually help somebody want to get help? What's the difference between tough love and enabling, and which one should you use right now? What is the right kind of help for your specific person? What kind of interventions are most appropriate for you? Those are just some of the incredible topics that we're going to cover in this month-long program. You'll also be getting a boatload of incredible bonuses, including group support throughout and some amazing guides to help you actually create change. This is truly the most complete program ever that will allow you to transform the relationships in your family and help you overcome addiction for the long haul. So if you're interested or you know somebody else who might be able to benefit from something like this, just go to bit.ly/famhelp in all caps. Again, that's bit.ly, all caps, FAM help, and get started right now.
Just find your own path and be true to it. But you can't find your own path without figuring out who you are. Who you are, not what a book says, not what an influencer says, not what a social media account says, not what a teacher says, like tuning into your own rhythm and who you are and what makes you you and what makes you unique, which is all the same things we teach our children, but we don't listen to ourselves. Life is all about relationships. Lovers, family, body, or money. How satisfied you are can be completely explained by how you relate to things around you. This is Sophie Jaffe, and together with my husband, Dr. Adi Jaffe, we are here to explore and teach you how to maximize your relationships and achieve a happier life. Let's get ignited.
Hey everybody, Adi here, and I wanted to tell you about these new Blue Blocks glasses that I've been wearing. If you're on any of our chats, you might have actually literally seen me wear them, because the ones I wear have these yellow lenses. And I gotta tell you, I've tried other Blue Blocker glasses before, and they felt okay, right? I felt a little bit of a shift in the way that the screens that I'm staring at every single day affected me. But then I heard about Blue Blocks, and these guys really went to task. We just interviewed their founder. He's an amazing, amazing guy who really wanted to understand how does light affect vision. And you know, I'm like the science guy here. So I wanted to tell you that there's nothing I put on. So they have, Blue Blocks has 3 different levels of their lenses. Blue light, which are kind of like the ones you see a lot of people wear around. They're clear and help with the blue light coming in from screens. My favorites are the Summer Glow lenses. They're yellow lenses, and I swear I put these things on during the day and I can actually feel my anxiety go down. And that's what they're meant for. It's like the combination of color therapy and blue light blocking at the same time. And then on top of those, they created the Sleep Plus lens that is almost like a reddish orange. It blocks out almost all of the blue light that's coming your way, and so it's really, really great right before sleep. But here's the thing. These are amazing glasses that have actually been tested to block out the right frequencies of blue light. So if you're like me, especially during this time when we're staring at screens and Zoom and meetings and everything is happening online, you want to get these glasses because I feel it. Literally, my sleep is better. My anxiety throughout the day is better when I put these things on. They're amazing. And we got you guys a special code. If you use the code IGNITED, just capital IGNTD, you'll get not only free shipping, but also 15% off. And these things are coming all the way from Australia. So you know you want to save on that shipping. All right, guys, check these out. They're amazing. This is the only company that actually backs their blue light blocking by scientific evidence that the right frequencies are being blocked. It's going to help change your life. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Ignited Relationships Podcast. I'm Andy Jaffe.
And I'm Sophie Jaffe.
And we are here for the Going Deep end of the month episode around expanding your understanding of the body and the mind connection. Mm-hmm. We had some powerhouse guests this month. I'm really excited to dive into this.
Yeah, last week was Gretchen Rubin, and before that was Will Sue, and we had Andy Mant. I might have them out of order, but they were all this month, and incredible, expansive, genuine humans trying to affect the world of wellness in their own ways.
Yeah, and all doing completely different things, but we're going to bring it all together today to talk about the lessons we learned, the ways we've been able to affect our own body and mind in this complex world, especially given the insanity that we're going through right now. So let's start off with our review of the week. Soph, can I get the drum roll? Thank you very much. This one is from Sunny Bunny. What's up, Sunny Bunny? Important and thoughtful. Adi and Sophie, thank you for being so thoughtful, relatable, inspiring, and boundary pushing and brave. One of my favorite parts of this podcast is that it appeals both to men and women and to people in so many stages of life. At the same time, I love that you bring on a diverse group of people and tackle a diverse group of topics. No fluff or shying away here. Just lots of brave, honest, important conversations and sharing. I think we all need a little more of that. So thanks for showing up. Long-time listener, I'm going to continue to be as long as y'all make the show.
Awesome. Thank you for that. What a beautiful review. Please
Thank you so much.
DM us or email us, figure out how to get a hold of us, and let us know that your review is read on air, and we'll send you a little care package.
Hell yeah. So you got a quote?
Yeah, this is based on a story by Paulo Coelho. And he is quoted, the quote is, "You have to take risks. We will only understand the miracle of life fully when we allow the unexpected to happen." But I'm going to go a little deeper and just read the full passage. So let me say that again. "You have to take risks," he said. "We will only understand the miracle of life fully when we allow the unexpected to happen. Every day, God gives us the sun. And also one moment in which we have the ability to change everything that makes us unhappy. Every day we try to pretend that we haven't perceived that moment, that it doesn't exist, that today is the same as yesterday and will be the same as tomorrow. But if people really pay attention to their everyday lives, they will discover that magic moment. It may arrive in the instant when we are doing something mundane, like putting our front door key in the lock. It may lie hidden under the quiet that follows the lunch hour or in the 1,001 things that all seem the same to us. But that moment exists, a moment when all the power of the stars becomes a part of us and enables us to perform miracles."
It's awesome.
I love that passage. It goes on. It's from one of his books. I actually will put it in the show notes which book it's specifically from, but he writes beautiful, magical books. And I really, I think especially right now where we are in like what people keep calling Groundhog's Day, I actually don't agree. I have been seeing like so many miracles and so many beautiful opportunities during this time for the sacred pause. And when you're in the pause is when you process. Now, you and I, Adi, like obviously don't get as much of a pause as like maybe we would hope for during this time. But at the same time, I feel like so many gifts have been presented to us through challenges and through this different timing of the world that is COVID and quarantine. But even just in general, anytime that we start to get into that, like just the same old shit, just another day, like that's when we get ourselves into trouble because the minute we stop seeing the joy and the magic is the minute that we're just kind of stagnant and stuck.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably been a long time since I've felt stuck. Maybe at least a few years. But every moment, every day, there are challenges. I mean, even, the challenges right now are different than they were before. I think for me, the shift, and the thing I loved about this month's topics is so much of it is a matter of both understanding what's really going on and kind of looking at it from as many different angles as you can. And I want to just maybe bravery, but also the ability to think outside the box and look for novel solutions for what's going to help you move forward.
That's what the key is about this, I think, for me too. I think we both came up with that in different ways, or came to that as the overarching theme in different ways. But that's really the key to me too. It's just like, there is no one way to heal. There is not one way to become happy. There is not one way. And that's what we learned in these different experiences each week.
Yeah, I mean, we see that in our everyday life. I mean, I joke around that we started off so differently, and we're still really different people. I mean, one of those things is coming out right now in Corona, right? Like, you joke around that I could just be by myself anyway all the time, and once a month or 3 times a month, I could go hang out with some friends, charge up, and be good the entire rest of the time. You don't work like that. Like, you need...
I'm a social creature.
So for you, the fact that like Alex moved in with us right at the beginning of this thing was actually a real blessing.
It's a blessing.
Like, you would have felt stuck if me being... Because I'm gone like the whole day. I'm still working. I'm working at least as much as before.
Yeah.
And you would have been upstairs and like just been by yourself, and it would have been a real struggle for you. So to find that balance and what we need individually and be able to kind of put that together is really, really useful. We did definitely get in the last couple of weeks to this place where you said, in finding our own independent solutions, we've gotten really disconnected. So we have to kind of bring it back a little bit and get ourselves back on the same page. But the theme that I really pick up from this month is our way of thinking, your way of thinking, mine, the people we're exposed to, is still even just a small offering. And then there's, like, one of the things I really got from the conversation with Gretchen is this idea of, 4 different types of ways of processing kind of the obligations and the motivations that you have in life. And, there was the obliger and the rebel and the questioner, and like, we're different. We're different people. And to have an understanding of that I never heard of before, allows you to look at your own needs in a really, really different way. And I think that's magical, right? I think so many of us grew up in a place where our parents told us what is good for you. Your teacher told you what's good for you, friends. And nobody really ever said, at least for me, nobody ever said, hey, this is my view on things. This is how I learn this. Make of it what you will. Yeah.
And also, we're all unique. Like, if there's one thing I've learned, even just in like losing weight, changing your body, just in that very aesthetic, physical kind of vain way of looking at things, for better or worse, we're all different. Your metabolism's different. We're unique beings. The way that you process food versus the way I process food. And there's so many things that play into that. And some people can work out 7 days a week, eat the cleanest diet in the world, have like chicken and, broccoli for every single meal, and not lose a pound because they're stressed, because they're not getting sleep, because their hormones are off. Because there's so many factors, and you really have to dig in deeper, because nothing is just linear.
Yeah. I know, we were talking as we were prepping for this, and I struggled a lot with generally kind of my mental health, but even more than that, just fitting into my role in life for decades. Like, from the time I was in elementary school all the way till after I finished college, and really was trying to find my way. So really, by the time I was like 28, 29, 30, I was finally finding it again. That's a long time. It's like 20 years of feeling lost and trying to find solutions. And I think the thing that almost, I'd say bothers me about the path that I took at the time was I never really heard, maybe they did say it, but I never really heard anyone say to me, hey, you just have to find your solution. Here are some proposed options. It was always like, hey, if you do this, you're supposed to be happy. If you go to college and get good grades, everything should work out. If you find a girl, you should be good. If you have a group of friends, everything should be fine.
Yeah, like in a very general sense, it's just find your own path. Just find your own path and be true to it. But you can't find your own path without figuring out who you are.
Yeah.
Who you are, not what a book says, not what an influencer says, not what a social media account says, not what a teacher says, like tuning into your own rhythm and who you are and what makes you you and what makes you unique, which is all the same things we teach our children, but we don't listen to ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to, I think to myself, what I was exposed to when I was a kid, there's so much more to compare yourself to for people now growing up.
Yeah.
And so many more ridiculous standards that are inapplicable to you.
Thank God our kids are not on social media. That's all I have to say. Thank God. Like, let's put it off as long as possible, because that forever is a place of comparison. It's impossible not to, no matter what platform you're on. When you're looking at someone through a virtual, device, it's really hard not to, because it's right there.
Yeah. And all you get is highlights, right? You just get whatever they want to show you. Yeah. And again, we're pretty good at being transparent, but it's not like you were saying actually this the other day. Like I came back, I did a session with Alexandra, our friend, because I'm always looking to do better. And we've been, fighting and whatnot, and kind of like we're not really fighting. We're just kind of like there's friction and we're trying to figure out how to solve it. So I went and did a session with Alexandra, and then I came back and I downloaded to you what happened and your perspective on what I was saying and the meaning behind what I meant to say and what I meant to express didn't come off right. So you got offended by some of the things that I said, and you processed that with me later on that night. But we can have the best intentions and there's still the chance that it'll misfire. Like there's always a reason to keep exploring and trying to do better. And I'm saying this here, so I'm trying to be transparent so that other people understand that it's not perfect regardless of what it looks like. And yet the overall picture, 90% of what we put out, it's pretty good.
Right.
Life is great.
Right. Like the photo that I posted a few weeks ago and the one that's on ignited.me right now on Instagram is like you and I kissing with the kids looking at us. I think Noah is either on my hip or in the pool, and so is Leo, and they're looking at us and they're smiling and we're kissing. Now, my caption was all about the nitty gritty and how we've been arguing and not arguing, but yeah, like having some friction and some tension around like you working more and me feeling neglected and not really knowing how to balance the feminine and the masculine between our relationship and switch gears when work is off, how to like find each other. And I talked about all that in the caption, but if you were just to flip through and not read the caption, it looks like a perfect family with a perfect backyard and perfect relationship and two healthy bodies. Like that is not what I was saying. I was saying, hey, this is the truth about how hard it can be. And again, like, it's not like I took a picture of us fighting. I didn't take a picture of me slapping you. Like, it wasn't like...
Well, what you said after that pseudo fight thing we had, and it was like a 15-second like friction thing. And then the hangover that it left after was, man, it'd be interesting if we could share that on the podcast. And we're talking about it right now, but we're not in the same headspace that we were in the moment. And for the people who are listening right now, whether you had listened to the other episodes or you're tuning in right now and you're going to go catch up, whatever it is, these solutions that the people we talk to offer are these like pearls of wisdom that are sitting in the ocean, and they're not all a match for you.
Yeah.
You just have to find
what works for you.
The ones that resonate.
Yeah.
I think if we can move away from the idea that there is a perfect system even.
Yeah.
And instead it's just each person trying to figure out the system that works for them.
Yeah. My friend Jamie, calling you out, Jamie, I know you're listening. We have a little gratitude email chain that we pass around every day. And there's 6 of us or 5 of us in the email, and I maybe contribute once or twice a week. My life is crazy. It's just, I wake up to babies in my mouth and my face, on my lips, in my body, in my bed. Like, it's just nonstop from the minute I wake up to the minute I go to sleep. So the days that I can like go on a walk and respond to that gratitude list, I'm so excited about, because I want to share my gratitudes, and it always grounds me. And Jamie does it every single week, every single day, no matter what, no matter if work is busy, no matter if we're in quarantine, no matter if she's fighting with someone, like, she always is like consistent. Her and our other friend always are the ones that do it. And she said, I'm not sure she listened to our podcast. And she said, I'm not sure if you read my email yesterday, but I listened to the segment with Gretchen on Ignited on our road trip, and I realized I am 100% an obliger who is married to a rebel, duh. But the point is that it is precisely why the gratitude chain works for me. I now get me more. I would no way do a daily gratitude list. I just wanted to share. I love you. And I love you too, Jamie. And I loved that insight, because it's just learning more about ourselves. That's what the point. That's why we share with you about human design, astrology, all of these experts sharing about things that they love so much. The more you know you don't know. But the more you know about yourself, the better you can then make decisions from that place, make choices, form relationships. It just helps you understand better.
Yeah. And
how to like deal with conflict.
Well, how to deal with conflict, but even, it's funny, you were saying like you respond a certain number of times because of all these other things that take us up. Look, let's also be real. We make priorities in our lives. We do. You do have the time.
I prioritize paid emails, like emails that have to do with my work.
You have the time to respond. I think this is the same thing that a lot of people say to me, like, I don't have the time to do something. I'm like, you have all the time that the rest of us have. Like, we all get 24 hours a day, and that's what we get. So you end up prioritizing what's important. And I'm not questioning your priorities. I think it's nice for us to kind of just be upfront about it and say, look, when I have the time and there's nothing else going on and this comes up, then I feel like I really want to contribute. It's funny because I contributed to the guy's version of that today because of the conversation we had, and it kind of prompted it for me. And so that's the game that I play in life. Like,
but and I don't remember what I was because I hadn't decided. I think I'm between different things, but I am not an obliger.
No.
If anything, I'm the opposite. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily a rebel, but I'm not going to do something just because someone tells me to. Just because it's expected or hoped for that I respond every day, that doesn't mean I'm going to prioritize it.
So part of the thing was like, there's people who do it because it's the right thing to do, people who do it because other people expect them to do it, people who question. So all that, and listen to the episode because Gretchen goes into it in depth and it's really, really insightful.
Yeah, it was actually 2 weeks ago. So you should go check it out.
And that's part of the equation. Part of the equation is figuring out what's important to you right now and diving in deeply and figuring that out. I mean, even the Will Sue conversation that we had, look, a lot of you wrote to us and said, wow, I was really kind of shocked at this deep conversation about psychedelics. I've never, that scares me, or that's not something I feel like I want to experiment with. And that's totally fine. We just watched that documentary, Have a Nice Trip or whatever. These are options. I went through a period, so I was talking about my own mental health struggles before. I went through a period where, and I'll never forget this, when I was in college in upstate New York still, I did acid, and I tried it before when I was in high school. So it wasn't the first time I had done it, but I remember the first time somebody gave it to me, I was like, this little piece of paper is going to do something? That's stupid. I'm not even going to feel it.
Right.
And then I took it and I was like in a different freaking universe.
Right.
But I remember in college, I was sitting, and I'm pretty rebellious in general in life. And so I was sitting there, I had done some acid. I did hallucinogens quite a bit for probably about 4 or 5 years of my life. And I remember having this thought that when I'm under the influence of this drug, I can talk to anybody and be empathetic. I can talk to, the example I gave at the time was like a jock or a frat boy. It was the thinking that I literally had when I was 18 years old, because those were the most distant people from me in the world. And there was something about the effect of this drug that made me able to relate to people that otherwise I felt so outside of. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not here to tell you that doing a drug to be able to relate to people is the way for all of us. But there is something amazing about removing that wall that so many of us have to the outside.
And a lot of us, the issue is inhibitions. So fears, anxieties, all of that is gone when you're on MDMA, when you're on mushrooms, when you're on acid, like when you're on these drugs.
Yeah, I mean, I've had really bad trips on acid,
Sure.
and then it's
If you're-
last thing that it's gone is actually front and center.
If you're dosing it correctly.
No, it has nothing to do with those.
Oh.
You can have a bad trip just because the thing about LSD is it brings it's not like
If you're not in a good place.
Yeah, it's not
Got
like
it.
MDMA where
Yeah.
the wall comes down and you feel good. Acid trips can be scary. The only difference is that when I had really scary trips, I learned a lot about what I don't like about my own life. It's like having somebody
A mirror.
take the mirror of all the fears you have in the world and putting them in front of you. It completely changed the way I behaved after that.
Yeah.
And it was really good as an experience. And I think they say that in the Have a Nice Trip. But
It's funny because I would never do a drug. Like I know myself so well. I would never do a drug if I'm in a bad place. Like remember the other night I was really anxious about Noah and I had like gone through a big tantrum with her and had to put her down. She was screaming in my face and she wouldn't eat dinner. And the whole walk she screamed in my face. And so for 2 hours I was just like really anxious and really stressed out and depleted. So I went to my room and sat in the fetal position on my bed for 45 minutes and just breathe and just try to calm myself down. But like I could have taken an edible. I'm not going to do that as a medication. I thought to myself, maybe I'll take an edible. I'm like, no, that's exactly why I shouldn't.
yeah.
And same thing with MDMA. Like, yes, you say like it may just be fine and you might feel good, but I know myself well enough that maybe the actual being high would feel good, but the after effect of being low, taking a drug which depletes you and being lower is not something that I would want. So,
And that's a little bit of why I always talk to you, because we've had a lot of really amazing experiences on MDMA. But I always say to you, I want to make sure we have the regular everyday tools to talk through and have our own breakthroughs that are unrelated to experiences, for the exact same reason why that insight that I had in college about how I can talk to everybody on this drug just made me realize that there's something in me that is blocking my ability to talk to those people otherwise.
absolutely. And then you need to get to work.
That's on me.
Yeah.
And so these experiences more teach you and point the way towards the work that you have to do. Again, in the same way that taking Gretchen's quiz about which of the 4 types you are helps you understand better how to kind of structure your world so that you function at your best.
And again, just continuing to immerse yourself in these tools. Like we have the feelings wheel on our Ignited website.
And now we have that free workshop. So if
We
you
have
go to ignited.com, there's a free feelings wheel workshop.
And what do you talk about on there?
I mean, I really go through the tool itself, but also the deep understanding of we have to develop our own emotional vocabulary. The vast majority of us, and I'm speaking not only about men, but also primarily about men, we never got given a dictionary for emotions. And so our brain is literally unable to tie a physiological, emotional state to words. So when you ask me, especially early in our relationships, I'm better about it now, but I'm still not great at it. I'm still learning. When you would ask me like how things are going, the reason I said good, bad, okay those are all the words I had. And you have to learn how to connect these things. Again, it all ties to the stuff we're talking about right now.
You know what's funny? When you pick up the kids from school, you don't pick them up very often, but when you did ever, would you say, how was your day? And they would say good. What would you say?
They would just say good or okay.
But did you
I would ask follow-up questions.
Okay. Because I would never accept that. I'm like, we're not allowed to say the word good. Give me any other word.
But it's funny that you say that. I would normally go like, well, what do you do? So I go to the what instead
go
of
to the
feelings.
do. You go to the do, which is your family is a doing family.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is another thing that just reminded me. Like today I was on Zoom for 7 hours straight in front of this ring light doing video chats. And you asked me right when I was done, you were like, did you have the Blue Blocks glasses on? And I didn't. And I can guarantee that's part of the reason why I was so stressed out when it was over. Because
And sitting for 7 hours in one spot. But yeah.
100%. But I'm saying that's what I'm saying. It all adds up together. Is we have these tools. And I know I've told you this before. When I put those on, my stress level at staring at a computer goes down. But if we forget to use them, the knowledge alone is not really all that useful.
And let's really like break that down. So there's lots of different ways in holistic health and holistic wellness of a human to circumvent or heal or help that situation, right? So say that you have 7 hours of Zoom calls. You look at your calendar at 6 a.m. You're doing your workout a D. You're doing your gratitude list and you see this is what's coming. What are some things you could do? You could wear the blue block glasses. You could get up for walks. In between every single call, you wrap up and say, hey, I got to hop off 5 minutes earlier on each one so that you then get 10 minutes of a walk in between outside in nature. Stretching, like laying down, going into the garage and stretching on a yoga mat. Getting your feet upside down in plow pose or feet up against the wall to let the blood rush opposite, right? Taking some CBD, if that works for you. Having more water, having more snack breaks. What are some other things? Like, look at all of these answers that can help if you know to pull them from your toolbox, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you would add? So movement, exercise, blue block glasses.
The good news is
chamomile tea.
I had my morning kind of ritual that put me in a better state of mind. And I did stop to eat, but I didn't do a lot of the other things. They literally just bled one meeting. I mean, literally there were 3 different times today where a meeting turned into another meeting because the person for the next meeting showed up in the room and the people from before had to leave. Like, it was just this really, and that's not, you asked about, I do look at my schedule ahead of time, but this time I didn't look at what the things were. So I'm always pretty busy throughout the day, but I didn't realize it was like zoom.
And I think also, I just want to point out that a D doesn't really create a lot of boundaries around work. He's very, you probably can tell by like listening to him all these years, but he is so masculine in the way that he works that for me, if someone showed up early to a Zoom, I would say, hey, I need 5 minutes. I'm going to go for a quick run, or I'm going to go grab some water, or I'm going to go see nature. I'm going to go meditate for a minute. Like, would you ever is there a world in which you would do that? Most likely not, right? Because they're there and you're like, oh gosh,
yesterday somebody showed up early and allowed me to get off early. But no, today, it wasn't that they showed up early. It was just like meetings bled into one another. Like, it was actually the opposite. I ran the meetings late from before by a couple of minutes, and then people showed up.
Yeah. So just taking care of yourself, you guys, and like, I will continue. A D doesn't even hear me right now because it goes in one door, in one ear and out the other.
Also in one door.
Or door. In the garage door and out through his office door.
It goes to Chelsea's room.
I'll give you guys advice since a D doesn't really listen to me until it becomes a problem. If you have some boundaries around yourself and your protection, whether it be working out, solo time, filling up your own cup, your own bucket, self-care, time with your partner, like whatever it is that you prioritize, coming back to that prioritizing, like for a D's example today, 7 hours of Zoom calls, he could have put up boundaries. He could have spoke up for himself. Afterwards, he could have talked to his assistant and said, hey, I need 15-minute windows in between so that I can breathe, collect myself, and get outside for some fresh air, or like give my wife a kiss. Letting her know that would ensure that the next time it never happens in that way. So it's up to a D in this example to take care of himself, to create boundaries, to create self-care throughout the day so that when it's done, he's not left at 0%. Because we all need to recharge. We all need to recharge our batteries. And that's what this episode is really about, is like, how do we not let ourselves get so depleted that we tap out, that we, work ourselves so ragged that there's nothing left to give. And that's what mental health is. When we lose it, when we're anxious, when we're not sleeping well, when we're so stressed out, like it's already past the point of health. It's kind of like with thirst. If you're thirsty, they say that you're already dehydrated. You should be drinking all day long. Half your body weight in ounces is kind of the go-to, and more if you're working out. So if you're 150 pounds, you should be getting a minimum of 75 ounces of water every day, and then another 8 ounces per half an hour that you're working out. So that's a lot of water. And by the time you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated. So if you think of that in reference to the human body and our stress levels, like by the time you're stressed out, it's already too far. How can we reel it back to protect ourselves so that we're taking care of ourselves all day long? And as we're giving in whatever ways to our children, to our jobs, to our partners, how are we also then filling up?
Sure. It just sometimes circumstances happen in life that...
Yeah, like today happened the way it happened, but how could it be further prevented in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, again, So, I always like to say to people, it's all about building the rituals and the systems and the things that happen so regularly in your life that you don't have to think about it. So the self-care is regular, from the drinking of the water to the exercise and the movement, et cetera, et cetera. And then, sometimes things in life shift and change. So the circumstances change, and that creates really a need to come up with a whole new system. Yeah. Like when we moved into this house for you, that was a big change.
Trauma. It was a trauma.
It was the first time, I think it was the first time that there was such a complete shift where all of a sudden the responsibility was on you. Like in order to be able to meet mortgage and do all the stuff, you had to do your work. And I don't think in your life you'd ever been like literally responsible for the family's income. You'd been responsible for yourself, but this was like, whoa, like a whole different level. And you just stopped breastfeeding. So we had a baby at home, plus the 2 kids, and this massive responsibility of really the biggest financial commitment either one of us has made. And it took you a couple of months, like what was it, like 2 or 3 months or something, to create the new boundaries and the new understanding that now it's pretty well spoken for. Like now, when you wake up, you're pretty sure the day is going to go really, really well. But it was a huge shift.
Yeah. Yeah. There are lots of things that Adi just mentioned that played into that. I basically had my version of a panic attack or anxiety attack breakdown. Like I had a breakdown. And I do want to say, like, sometimes things have to break down so you get a breakthrough. So in relationships, like, again, we talk about this all the time, but I actually look forward to, quote, arguments or conflict with Adi because I know that on the other side will make us closer and give us a breakthrough on something that we've been stagnant or stuck on. But yeah, this was something that was, it was unexpected in that, like, I didn't have a map of what the mountain was going to look like. I saw signs, like, leading up to it. Like I was agreeing to a lot of collaborations for trade, just for trade. And that was for our home so that we could save money and because that's my job and because I prefer trades. But then on top of it, I was doing triple time when it came to my paid jobs plural, from events to holding space to philosophy to my sponsored jobs. It was triple time. It was beyond overtime. And not just that, like, yes, the financial burden, now double the amount for mortgage than what we paid for rent. Not just that, but then all these people I'm owing and that feeling of like, I owe all these people for the collaborations for trade. But on top of it, as a mother, as a nurturing, feminine mother figure to these babies, I could feel their needs and their transitions and their separate shifts. And it killed me. Like, even just having the boys further away and them being afraid of being so far from us because before we were right across the hallway. Yeah. Noah, everyone going through their own transitions and shifts as we moved to a new house that was way bigger, way different. They were really used to this other way of living. They had their routines. They loved their neighborhood friends. So to move them and uproot them to a better life, for sure, this is a much better existence for them.
Especially now with Corona. Oh my God, could you imagine being stuck in that other place?
Everyone I've talked to has said that. I talked to Trisha this morning. Like, everyone I know has been like, imagine you were at that last place. Just imagine.
With like a backyard the size of literally my office.
Yeah, front yard. There was no backyard.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. And there's so many things that played into that breakdown. I was overstretched. I was overburdened. I had no boundaries anymore with my phone. Like the way that I take care of myself now with trying to go on airplane mode until I wake up in the morning, like later after I've already been up. I've been snuggling with the kids now and like reading before they get up, having my coffee, connecting with the family way before I ever turn on my phone. There were no boundaries. I was sleeping with my phone right next to me. I was texting with Danny, who was helping us with every collaboration, every room, every mood board, every like delivery, every single thing. I was on the edge of my seat trying to manage all of it alone.
But I think that's almost, unfortunately, I think that's almost how it works for people like us who want to keep growing and expanding and being more, not even doing more, but being more, because you use the system you have And then you build on it and you build and you build. And the system
until you stretch. And then,
the system you put together can't hold the weight anymore. And you need a new system.
Yeah. And also like the reason that I manifested this house and this mortgage and this family and this daughter and this life and our relationship was so I could stretch and expand. That's why I knew I was ready, and I knew I was ready for the up level. And so like literally all of our mood boards with Danny were called the Jaffe's up level. That was what our mood boards were called. I was calling in an up level. Guess what? That takes hard work. Yeah. That takes my clothes feeling too small and my shoes feeling too small and my baby teeth wiggling and it being uncomfortable and then they fall out. And then what? Like it takes that when we grow. And it's just like Kai says with the growing pains.
Yeah. And it's the same with anything, right? Like if you talked about exercise earlier, if you're really exercising, you're pushing your body beyond what's comfortable.
So that your muscles can break.
So that your muscles can
tear. And rebuild.
And your heart can work harder than it's used to, and then it gets used to this new level, but that takes effort and pain, and the same thing happens in every part of our life. And, you know, I really loved when either in the live that we did with Will Su or in the conversation we had with him, you know, this concept that it's not always about being comfortable. It's not always about
absolutely not
what is, because if we really think about it, especially in the short term, if it was all about being comfortable, then sitting on the couch eating potato chips and like in comfort food and just shoveling sugar and stuff into your body would be the right decision. It feels better in the moment, specifically because it's not stretching you. And I always say this to the people I work with. I think we almost have to stop saying to ourselves sometimes, I feel stuck. Because the idea of I feel stuck is that you can even stand in one place. Mm-hmm. But that's not actually true. Like, I mean, forget that we're on a marble that's spinning through the universe and we're literally not even standing still for a split second. But even in a figurative sense, if you stop doing what you're doing to grow, you will shrink and you will go backwards. Yep. You're not going to stay where you are. And so if you don't push yourself in the direction you want to go in, the world will push you in the direction it wants to go in. Mm-hmm. And that means boundaries will be broken and people will ask more of you and stress will build and all this stuff, just like you were mentioning with me with work today. Like if I don't, like I wrote for myself after today, like it's time for me right now. I still have a thing. Almost anybody who gets on our list, if they're active enough, gets an offer for a 15-minute free consultation. I'm the person that they book that with. So every week I have like 8 of those. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it's about 2 to 3 hours of time on my week that I don't know the person. They're showing up. Now, again, I love connecting to people, but what I realized today, and I wrote in my notes, I need to start offloading that. Because having 8 different people takes me off of my ability to focus on all the other things that are going on.
Well, not just that, we're sensitive beings. As healers, we're absorbing all the stuff. Like you're a little better at having that boundary up, but you could be the strongest like guy in the world and the most like macho, I have up all these things. Like you're absorbing that energy. If someone's upset, crying, offloading their energy onto you, it's hard not to absorb that. And doing 8 of those a week with different people and not consistently being like talking to them regularly, there's nowhere for it to go but inside of you.
And in 15 minutes, there's so much pressure because it's like, first of all, I never actually make it 15 minutes. That's why it goes long. It's like 20 or 25 minutes. Yeah. And I'm trying to understand them, trying to understand what they need, trying to understand if we're the right thing for them. And if not, guide them in a different direction. Yeah. It's just a lot and it ends up causing stress.
Absolutely.
And so I wrote that on there, but you know, it's something I've loved doing when it was smaller. Sure. It was 1 or 2 a week. And now that it's 8 to 10 of them a week, it's becoming too much.
I love one-on-ones with my clients, but I go through shifts where I can allow that into my life because I hold so much space for my relationships and so much space for my own growth and so much space for our children that I know I don't have the emotional capacity to take on that.
And we've also you've worked at this, I've worked at this. I now have amazing other coaches who could do that for me.
You trust them. And that's the cool thing about delegating is like, that's another thing about getting stressed and anxious and feeling like you have too much. Like, what can you offload? What can you delegate? How can you put trust into someone else to do things that they can probably do just as well?
Yeah. I used to say, and I don't believe in it anymore, but I used to say that, well, you know, we delegate and we have to understand that the person that we delegated to will do it like 70, 80% of how well we would do it, but that's the cost for buying back our time. I've now learned, not everybody's always this lucky, but through working with you working with Taylor and me working with Maddie and finding some other kind of like amazing people in my life, that when you understand how to delegate and you know how to help people do their best, you actually oftentimes can find people that do incredible work, sometimes even better than what you would be able to do, because you let them kind of do their best. And
you support them in that.
And when you went through your breakdown, I think that was one of the ways that you were able to come out of it is, yes, offloading some things in terms of like literally not doing them. But then the other piece was, hey, giving other people responsibilities they didn't have before so they could take them off of you. And that's maybe that is a good.
Well, and to empower them. Like, how nice is it to empower someone, to trust them? It's one thing to just be like, can you go get me my Starbucks? It's another thing to actually trust them with something that you have only done yourself. And you're saying, you know what? I'm going to empower you with this because I trust you.
Yeah.
And I want you to grow. I want you to expand and challenge your own growth edges, which is the point of life in all things.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, no matter how exactly it develops, this Corona season thing is taking a turn right now, and things are going to open up, and we're going to start going back to a different version of normal maybe than it was 3 months ago, but closer to where we were. Things are opening up. You're going to have to move around. Some of you will go back to work. Some of you will keep working remotely. What Sophie mentioned about my work and what she kind of talked about in terms of building boundaries is an important lesson for all of us. I literally talked to people in my group about it today. If we don't create the sort of checklist of here's what I need to be at my best. I mean, listen to the question we ask all of our guests after every interview. How do you take care of yourself? How do you show up as your best? Notice some people have similar answers, but a lot of people have totally different rituals. There's not a right and a wrong.
Yeah.
You just really have to find your own, because if you don't find your own, other people will try to exert their needs on you, and you just won't know where the wall is.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, you'll just run right into it and hurt yourself.
And one last thing, I want to give you a little self-care shopping list. All of these things are free, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Loving myself, saying no, getting rest, being intentional, honoring my journey, practicing self-compassion, living in the moment, taking 4 deep breaths, and calling a friend. So those are all completely free things you can shop for when it comes to self-care and honoring your well-being and your health. So checking in with yourself. And like Adi said, knowing that it's not a one-size-fits-all. And that's why we share all of those self-care practices, to see what tools you can add to your toolkit and pull from when you're in need.
Totally. And if you haven't taken Gretchen Rubin's quiz yet, go do it. A few million people have already taken. Check out and see if it relates to how you see the world. I will speak again, like these blue blocks. I'm so pissed at myself that I didn't wear them today, because I know for a fact I don't know how many dozens of times I've tested it. But when I put those things on and I'm staring at a screen for a few hours, the level of stress I have goes down considerably. Like I would estimate it's like a 30% decrease in anxiety and stress that I have. Different. So I would be much, much better today if I had those on. And that's my bad for not putting them on, even though they're literally sitting right next to my computer screen.
Take care of yourself, guys. There's a lot going on. There's a lot in our environment. There's always a lot going on. We're differently focused right now during this time. So be sensitive with yourselves, be intuitively connected, take time to fill up your cup, and there's no rush. There's no rush in anything. Like, it's all things that this pressure that we put on ourselves, release the pressure and go at your own rhythm.
And if you need actual more human support, Sophie gave you an amazing free shopping list. We do still have Ignited's lower cost and regular cost online subscription. We've changed the model because of Corona to make it easier for you guys to access. For literally $1.50 a day, you can have a month of 40 groups and amazing content. Our relationship transparency intro course, the family SOS program, the Ignited NoHab recovery program, like all these amazing programs for like $1.50 a day. It's insane.
Yes.
Literally all you got to do is go to bit.ly/ignited help, all caps, ignited help, all caps. And you can get that help right now. And then we're here. I'm there twice a week. We have other amazing coaches that will help you essentially every day of the week. Kate Van Horn joined us for a trauma group. We just onboarded
Kate, which is so lovely. She's amazing, has a lot of trauma experience, and we're here to support you and help you. So let us know if there's anything different or new you'd like us to add on, and we're always here to learn and grow. We hope you enjoyed this rambling podcast between Adi and I. As usual, just so you know, we always go deep at the end of every month and just talk about our last 3 guests and what we loved about them and the themes and our personal connection. So go back and check out those last 3 episodes if you haven't already, and we will see you for the next month
See you next month.
Mwah. Thanks, everyone. Love you.
Bye. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Ignited podcast. We were so happy to have you along for this ride. Please go and subscribe to this. Leave us a review. We love hearing from you. And if you want more, don't forget to go to ignited.com, where all the podcast episodes are available with show notes and so many of the little details and links from each one of these interviews. And you can look at all the future events that we have going on, all the things that make Ignited so special, even beyond this recording. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week.